Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning for the Latino College Student Panel. I'm Andrea Mendez-Barrutia, the Director of Community Engagement for the Hispanic Collaborative. Nationally, Latino college students have been making progress in terms of enrollment, and that progress, along with the important work that Hispanic serving institutions do, has been reversed by COVID-19. During this college student panel, we'll hear from 3 Latino college students who will share their stories of experiencing the pandemic while in college. Please write any questions that you may have in the chat and we will try to get to them at the end. We are happy to have Alberto Maldonado join us this morning as moderator. Alberto serves as a director of the Roberto Hernandez Center at UW-Milwaukee, and he also serves in several key UWM campus committees, including Moonshot for Equity, the 2030 Think Tank, and the Multicultural Network. Alberto holds a BA degree in Fine Arts and an MS in Educational Foundation of Education from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and he also has an extensive career at UWM, spanning 23 years, helping develop programs and initiatives for students and their families. Thank you for joining us this morning, Alberto.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Andrea, and good morning to everyone who is joining us this morning. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you, and now you can see my face. Today, I'm delighted to be not only here by myself, but I'm also joined by 3 amazing students. So I want to thank them in advance for participating and for sharing their stories. I think we all understand that the Latino college students have faced, even greater academic obstacles during this pandemic time, while Latinos families also have been disproportionately affected. So we appreciate you taking the time and sharing very candidly, what you have experienced personally. So, but before we get going, I would like to know a little bit about your background, and I want the audience to also get to know you a little bit an hour that we will be covering today. So, if each one of you can share with us a little bit of yourselves. We have with us this morning three great students, Jannett Mora, a sophomore at Marquette University, Javier Retana, a junior at UWM, and Nancy Juarez, a senior at Mount Mary University. So if you guys can tell us, where you're from, how old are you, what you're studying, and perhaps, the high school you attended. That way we can get a little into your lives this morning. So thank you. Why don't we start with Jannett?
Hi, yes. Hi, everybody. So I'm Jannett Mora, as Alberto introduced me. I was raised in the south side of Milwaukee and attended the Milwaukee Public Schools District up until high school, where I then went on to attend a small charter school called Veritas High School. Currently, I'm 20 years old. I'm attending Marquette University and I'm majoring in biomedical engineering.
Thank you, Jannett. Javier?
Hello, my name is Javier Retana. I'm a junior at UW-University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, studying civil engineering with an emphasis in structural engineering and a minor in business administration. I attended Central High School located in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where I was born and raised as well.
Thank you, Javier. And Nancy?
Hi, everybody. My name is Nancy Juarez. I am a current senior at Mount Mary University studying Justice Studies Spanish with a minor in political science. My background for education, I used to start from K to 8th grade. I was in a private school and then was at a charter school with Jannett at Veritas High School, and I'm currently 21 years old.
Awesome. Thank you so much, all three. And Javier, I see you are wearing your internship attire this morning. So,
Yeah, I was actually in the field now.
yeah, and we'll learn more about what you've been up to. But before we jump into talking about being a college student during COVID, all right, last 15, 16 months, let's talk about what you had to do to get here. How hard was your journey to get to where you were before COVID? Did you had any typical high school experiences as you are finding out from other diverse college students? And where did you feel you were prepared, and what was a surprise to you? So kind of like going through that high school to college transition, right? What was that journey like? And we'll go in the same order, Jannett.
Yeah, so my high school was predominantly low income and Hispanic. So when I first started college, attending Marquette, it was most definitely a culture shock for me. I think one of the biggest issues for me has been just the conflicting of the two worlds I feel I experienced with respect to my college life and my home life. So just a little bit of background, my parents are immigrants from Mexico. So I'm a first-gen Mexican-American and first-gen college student since they were only able to attain a middle school education. So being a daughter in a Mexican household has definitely been a huge learning experience as I navigate my own college experience. So like just with that, there's all these expectations at home, being a daughter and just trying to figure yourself out as you're learning about yourself in college. So it sometimes feels like the two worlds clash, and it can get to be a bit much when you don't feel like you're necessarily understood on the college campus. So I've kind of learned to navigate these spaces while I'm in college and just really find what fits for me and to feel really understood at the college level and in my classroom.
And just to reemphasize, what do you think was what were the skills or the pieces that you were able to bring with you, whether it was from home or high school, that made you sort of be more resilient and really navigate college easier? Were there particular things that you carry with you that are kind of like your secret weapon, right? Or your superpowers, right?
Yeah. Being the oldest daughter, I think it's taught me to be kind of like a caregiver for my younger sister. And I think that has taught me to fit into a lot of roles differently, whether that's leadership roles. Even though I tend to be someone that's introverted, I think a lot of times I like to take lead and initiative on things. It's also kind of taught me to be curious and compassionate with other people and just really try to understand where people come from and how I can best assist them while just being myself too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jannett. Javier, how was that transition for you? What were those, what was that skill set or things you learned along the way that got you to where you are today?
Well, basically just going off of what Janette's saying, listening to what her experience, I feel like I'm pretty much the opposite. I had the opposite experience what she did. I went to a predominantly white school, so even throughout elementary school, my school was actually K through 8th grade, so it was just one giant school. So I did experience a lot of I was not really bullied as a child, but really I did have spouts of like experiencing racism, and just my high school was like pretty much 90% white. So it was really refreshing to come to UWM and then having that RHC center where I could connect with other Latinos, because just like these constant years of just trying to not really assimilate, but more my culture not being like talked about or more or less repressed at sometimes. So it was really refreshing to actually go to UWM and have those connections with you and then other people that I made with at RHC. So my high school experience as well, apart from that, I basically like stacked up on classes as soon as possible and worked basically anytime I did have free time, just because my parents weren't really at that financial level to support me. They gave me that all the moral support and emotional support I could ever ask for, but really to put on that financial burden to actually achieve my higher education was going to be unattainable. My dad's a single income family, so, and I'm also the youngest of I have 4 older sisters. So as soon as I could walk, I was always with my dad. He was telling me how to work. That work ethic that he instilled in me, especially helped me drive myself to get to where I am. I can honestly say that I've paid my way through school 100% at this point. So it's really refreshing, and it's not from any refusal of my parents. On the contrary, they always ask if I need money or how's school going and all that. But it's just me as a Latino, and I'm sure Nancy and Jannett can attest to that as well. Like our parents have gone through so much as well, just to try to give us a better life and experience the American dream. So like it's only fair for us to try to give them a little piece of what they gave us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Javier. Nancy, how was that journey for you, and what were those things that prepare you along the way to where you are today? Can you share a bit of that transition?
Yeah, so I agree with Jenna and Javier. It was definitely like a navigating experience trying to be like either first generation student and trying to transition into college. It's been really difficult because they don't have that type of experience of like what college is like, how the environment is in college, and bringing that home, whether you live in the dorms or at home, it's been really difficult. And especially for me, I often rely on my parents for help with anything. And then during that transition, when I had to file for FAFSA or having help from homework that I needed, it was definitely kind of difficult, and that kind of built that barrier between me and my parents because I couldn't really rely on them and help on what I needed for college because they don't know what I'm experiencing through. And I feel like it's kind of eye-opening for me because they wanted us to go so far, but they can only help us so much depending on what either you're majoring in or whatever the cause may be. I feel like it's very difficult to kind of like be this person, this college student that wants to be the best person, the best student, the best whatever that may be, and trying to live up to their American dream and having us to be successful in life has been awakening and also like very hard and difficult to kind of navigate that. And so I feel like with that, it's kind of like a motivation, I know for me and probably for Jenna and Javier as well, to continue and push on and be that person that they want us to be, that they couldn't when they were back in their home country. So I feel like it's kind of makes my drives my purpose and what I want to be and what I want them to be happy for me in whatever that I do. And kind of steering away from that, I feel since I attended a predominantly Hispanic high school, I feel like that transition in college wasn't that different because I was surrounded by Hispanic students because I'm a part of this program called the Grace Scholarship Program that covers 85% of our tuition that's offered for low-income students. And so even in that space, there's kind of like a predominant in Hispanic students. So I feel like kind of from a different experience from Jenna and Javier, I kind of didn't experience any shock or any like different movements in the education system that I went through. And so I feel like I'm kind of grateful that I see more Hispanic students in my college that are attending and trying to become somebody in this world. So I feel like it wasn't much of a difference for me, but I can see not from only my point of view, but probably from other students that I met that they probably like, oh, there's more of me in this field. So
Awesome. And thank you all three. You are so inspiring, and I can't wait to meet you in person hopefully soon. But thank you for sharing and answering that question so well. So I want to fast forward things, and for the audience, I want them to pay really good attention, because this is kind of like the meat and potatoes of today's conversation, right? So COVID hits, right? Let's try to. I don't want you to relive, all this time, because I know for many of us, it weighs heavy on all of us, right? But let's for a quick second think, COVID hits. How did that affect your studies? It's March 2020, out of the blues, things get shut down. How did that affect your dorm life, if that was your case, or your home life, which is the case of many of the Latinx students that we know, right? That commute to college and live at home. Did you have what you needed to maneuver college online initially and then eventually, right? Because it's almost like a different step process, right? We first learn, then we try to adapt, and then all these requirements that now colleges are putting on you, and said, oh, you have to check in here, or this platform, or that, online tool. What new responsibilities or pressures did that add to your plate? If you already had a plate full, this might have added a few other things, right? Were you able to continue college? And last but not least, I know this is a compounded question. Has it changed or challenged your trajectory in life or in your academic pursuit? Why don't we start at the middle with Javier, and then we'll go to Jannett.
All right. I'm gonna be honest. The other thing COVID change was kind of kill my college experience, as I was living on campus and it hit beginning of second semester. So I was just getting into the groove. Things finally, first semester was a little rocky with my studies and then just trying to prioritize. And then COVID hit, and it's basically living at home. There's really not much to do, actually. Luckily, I didn't lose my job or anything. My dad didn't take a hit. He works construction, and then I was working with horses, so we didn't really take a hit. My dorm life ended as well. I'm assuming for anyone else that lived in the dorms, that same thing happened. And then more or less going off to that, my schooling was basically like sink or swim. Basically, my parents, they don't know what's going on as well. My dad has a second grade education. My mother just has a high school education, so they didn't really know what was going on. They just asked how school was, but it was my job to do my homework, my job to prioritize my own studies as well, just trying to make a schedule of things. So I would actually like commute to school at least once a week to try to get into more or less a routine and try to basically motivate myself to do it. I will say though that for my friends, at least, our school really let us down with the cost of everything. Like the costs weren't changing, the aid was minimal. It just really, like, a lot of schools didn't really help the students at all. And then for financial hits of COVID, I guess I can't really. I know there was a lot of people that took a lot of hits to that. Some people even dropped out that I know of, more or less financial burdens. But luckily, I did not experience any of that. But what really did shock me though was like the fact that the schools they were of no help to anybody.
Yeah, just to go back to one of the questions. Did you have what you needed to navigate things? I know technology was a big driver of staying in school and being able to navigate. You said sink or swim. Can you give us a picture of what that was like for you? Internet connectivity, computer at home, a space to study and to
it was the teaching styles of it as well. I know it was a complete 180. So, but I was basically teaching myself all these classes. Calculus, I know there's a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of classes that I struggled with as well. My grades weren't like how I wanted them to be, but at least I got through my semesters. But it's really disheartening to see the help that was given, especially like I looked for the help as well. The tutors, they would just watch you do your homework. I had a couple tutors just send me to Chegg or Slater and just say to look at the examples, like you're here to help me at least. Teachers as well were no help. I mean, you'd email them and then they would just give you no answer as well. They'd give you an answer, but it'd just be an empty answer. Even the advisors at times, I know they had a lot on their plate, but at the same time, like imagine how much we struggled with this as well. It's just like a lack of resources. There was resources there, but the quality of the resources were just not up to par.
Thanks for sharing. Jannett, how was that experience for you? COVID hits. Now you're having to adjust to a complete new system, like Javier mentioned, and having to adapt to a new style of teaching. Did you have what you needed at the time at home? If you were forced to go back home, if you were in a dorm, what was that like?
So yeah, so like Javier, I was also living on campus. I'm lucky to be a recipient of a full tuition and room and board scholarship that pays for that. And I do think there was a lot of value to being on campus because it kind of allows you to put your headspace at school and not worry about just different like issues at home. So when COVID hit and I had to move back home, I did notice that I required a different level of energy to focus on whether it was my lectures, homework, studying, tests. You're really just trying to find a space where you can focus on your learning. And also at the start of the pandemic, I was actually working part-time as a cashier for a local grocer. So when the pandemic started, I was picking up additional hours just because of the uncertainty of things. It was just kind of instinctive, just like to look out for my family in case I would have to help at home, since my mom was a waitress and I know restaurants were the ones that were hit hard. But yeah, I think the biggest struggle for me was just really trying to find a space where I could really focus on my classes.
Awesome. Technology-wise, those tools were there?
So I do have my own personal technology laptop and stuff. It was just the internet obviously was, since I have two older brothers and we were always using the internet at the same time, I think that was probably the biggest issue technology-wise.
Yeah. And Javier mentioned something very interesting. I think, professors and resources that were typically done in person and teaching was done differently. Did you see any changes in the style of delivery, and did that impacted any of your learning or staying in the game?
So I think maybe Javier understands this a little bit because he's also engineering. A lot of my learning comes from working with other people, and I didn't really get that during my the second half of my freshman year when I was still my freshman year trying to meet people, learn about what works for me in terms of studying. Most of my classes were just meet the deadline. For my math classes in particular, the professors were just doing pre-recordings, and I didn't really feel like I had a chance to ask questions while the lecture was going on. If there was a time where I needed to ask questions related to the lectures, I would have to go out of my way to email a professor about it. And the same with tutoring. I think tutoring didn't happen until the last 2 to 3 weeks, which was towards the end of the semester, where I don't think I saw the point in going anymore, when I needed the help in the middle of the semester as well.
Thank you for sharing. It's interesting to see that there's some commonalities in professors and instructors having to do things differently and what impact that has in the learning. Nancy, last but not least, on this, COVID happens, and then what happens to Nancy and her world? Did you have to move back home? Were you already at home? Did you have what you needed to continue to do that? And did it have any impact in your learning or your ability to stay grounded in your studies?
Yeah, so different than Jannett and Javier, I was a commuter, so I would always go back and forth from home and school. But mostly I would always spend all my time at school because I wanted to stay in that mentality and stay focused on my studies, because I know at home it's a different environment. Everybody's doing their own thing. My brother also transitioning back into the house and studying. And I think for me it was very difficult because I had to not only support myself and paying my tuition, but also had to help my parents because my mom wasn't working at all before COVID. And so during COVID, it was pretty difficult for her. And then my dad as well, he was a cook at a restaurant. So like Jannett said, it was very hard for the restaurant workers to support themselves in the pandemic. And so when my dad lost, he didn't necessarily lose his job, but it was very unstable. He would work some days and he would not work some days. And so we had just recently bought a house during that, like past few months. And so when COVID hit, it was kind of difficult for my parents to pay mortgage and all these other utilities that they had to pay. And so I had to pick up a few extra hours at work, which I work at a hospital. And so that's a very constant environment of work and all that stuff. And it was difficult because I had to balance not only working more hours, but also being at home, trying to find a space in my house to be focused and trying to be more comfortable in the environment that I was in, because I wasn't necessarily home all the time. And so I did have all of the technology that I needed, all the other necessities at home, because it was only me and my brother that would use the internet more. But now that with COVID, it was a little more tedious because I had to go help my brother sometimes, or I had to go down into the living room and keep an eye on him because he wasn't focused on his schoolwork. So it was a very navigating experience during COVID. But definitely what I think I missed the most, and I think Javier and Jannett would agree, is that class engagement in the classroom. Because for me, since I'm a justice and Spanish major, it was more easier for me in the transition and to online learning. But I still kind of miss that engagement in the classroom, because it's not necessarily the same over Zoom. Because that class engagement, you get more opinions from other classmates and different perspectives on the studies and what we're learning on that week. So it was definitely a learning curve throughout the whole pandemic.
Thank you so much, and once again, I think I'm gonna repeat this a few times throughout today's panel presentation. You all are so brave and strong and have endured so much. So I admire your tenacity through this time. But I think we can all agree that no one could have been fully prepared for COVID, right? This is an unknown territory for all of us. But I guess I'm just going to ask the question, how prepared do you feel you were for COVID? I mean, were there places that you drew from, that said, you know what, I can do this. I can navigate through everything that I'm experiencing, almost like on a daily basis, because every 24 hours or even every 12 hours, there was a new piece of information that drive our lives, right? Especially during the early stages of COVID. What would have made you feel more prepared or more on solid footing, now knowing what after COVID, and hopefully we will continue in a positive trend of of getting back to normality and things like that. Do you feel like things are back to normal now? Did the pandemic add time and expense to your path to graduation? So a few questions that I'm just curious about. So number one, again, you know, how prepared do you feel you were for COVID? What would have made you, I guess, a bit more prepared if you feel that you weren't? And do you feel like, you know, things are back to normal now? I mean, what is your sense, given what you know? And then the fact about this whole process added, you know, more expenses or hinder your ability to afford, you know, staying in school. Jannett, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, so I think something that I feel would have really prepared me for COVID was feeling comfortable asking for help or knowing who to go for help. I don't think I struggled that much financially because I was lucky enough to be on a full tuition scholarship. So in terms of paying for my school, for my college tuition, I mean, I don't think I was ever worried about that in the moment, but I do think I would have been more prepared if I knew where to go for help, and that became more and more relevant as I saw that my mental health was one of the things that I never prioritized, that I was never comfortable talking about or reaching out for help for. And just being in engineering where the curriculum is rigorous, you always feel like you have to perform at a certain level, and just feeling guilty when you're not at the level you're at. I think really that was something that I think I struggled with a lot, and being online did not help at all. I did not have mentors in engineering besides my older brother who was in college at the time. I didn't know who to ask for advice in terms of internships when it came to classes. I didn't know like um, if if it was okay for me to ask for help, you know, even though I probably should have. It felt shameful in the moment. So I think I probably will be adding an additional semester to my college studies just because I feel that need right now, and I think it was the best decision I could have made for my mental well-being.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting the mental health aspect. I think that's at the center of many you know, situations, both with students, staff, families, right? COVID really came into our lives, and I don't think, you know, many folks were prepared to endure, you know, the change in the lifestyle and the things that really impacted lives and the health, the overall health of families, especially in our Latino community. Javier, how about you? Oh, and Jannett, where do you think we are now in terms of COVID, in your opinion?
Sorry, what was that? Where do we think we're at now?
Like, I think, do you think things are back to normal in your opinion?
I think things are going in a better direction. I do see, at least for my college, they're making an effort to try to move to in-person, which I feel like would help a lot of students in terms of engagement and their academic life. But I do think it still feels very unexpected because you don't know how things are, how the virus is changing, how that uncertainty still feels very present, you know?
Yes. Thank you so much. Javier, sorry for cutting you off.
No, you're fine. Being prepared for COVID, I think the only people that were prepared for COVID were like high middle class to high financially stable people. I think COVID really took a toll on the lower middle class and especially low class defined citizens, especially living paycheck to paycheck, uncertainty of employment, just the lack of resources available as well. And I don't think anyone could have been prepared for COVID as well. I mean, the last pandemic was over 100 years ago. Even then, it was taken seriously to a degree, but I mean, especially with social media being like a double-edged sword, just spreading misinformation, and then the information that we do get, people become skeptical of it because of that misinformation. So that was really just something, like you said, every 12 hours or 24 hours, you're just getting new information, and it was just like a roller coaster of emotions.
Did the pandemic added a financial burden on you, your family?
Luckily, no.
As
It wasn't really.
As it pertains to your studies and delaying things for you?
No, I think honestly, I think it revolutionized like the work area, especially the school area. Like what most people thought couldn't be done at home, like right now can be done at home. I think for more like Jannett and I, especially even Nancy, like we'll never be able to work from home. Like Nancy she's in the medical field. She needs to see her patients. Jannett, she needs to be with her working like hands-on. Me as well. I can't. The only way we work from home minimally is like paperwork in that aspect. But especially for the people that can, though, like 100% work from home, I think it just revolutionized the way employers treat their employees, and you really just saw who actually cared more about the employees rather than just a paycheck. And I think especially COVID, along with the work area, I think it just changed schooling as well. I mean, online schooling was always like looked down upon. At least that's what I saw. Like if you went to an online school, it was really not much, like there was really no prestige to it. But all these schools around the country are just like online, and it can be done. It's just some people don't prefer it. I really don't prefer it as well. Like it's just being in my room and trying to do calculus while my bed is like right behind me is really just not the most motivating thing to do, especially at 8 in the morning. So yeah. I think that's more of that.
You think there was something in particular that would have prepared you more for what we all learned, with COVID? I mean, was there anything that you say, well, I wish I would have known this, or?
I mean, I think it just falls back, especially on the finances. Like, if I was financially stable, I would have just been way more prepared.
Were you able to tap into federal, state aid during this process, or additional external funding? I know you just received a scholarship recently, but was that the mentality that, I need to look for?
Yeah, that was a mentality, just like consistently looking for scholarships. I know, I mean, that's what I've been motivated to do more. Like last year, I really didn't look for any, which really took a toll on me. And then this year, I just finally got the motivation, just look and look and look. And I've been blessed to receive a couple, and I just continue to look. That's been a big help. But yeah, I mean, I think everything just falls back.
No busca, no encuentra.
Yeah. But I just think everything falls back to resources at this point, honestly, just because of the way like the world we live in. I think more or less the people that took the biggest hits were the ones that weren't financially ready for it.
Awesome. Thank you, Javier. Nancy, COVID hits. Were you fully, prepared? I know, I kind of know the answer, and Javier and Jannett have shared, but how prepared were you for this change? And was there, what would have made you more prepared for it? Things are back to normal. Did this really delay any of the process? I know Jannett mentioned adding another semester to her academic journey. It's more of a, it's a good decision in her mind, given the mental health impact, feeling more comfortable, feeling like you own your story, right? You own your journey, and making those decisions is important. So did you go through those emotions, and how did you approach COVID in general?
Yeah, I definitely feel that with COVID, it kind of questioned if I was going to graduate on time. Was there any classes that I was going to take in the future that were going to be canceled? I know since I'm a double major and I'm a minor, I feel like it was kind of difficult for that because I had to take classes for both majors and then the minor as well. I know for one of my minors, my political science minor, there was one class that I needed to take that required like a lot of class engagement, and it was like the class was like a performance like role, and so we had to be in the classroom and engage with other students. And so when I talked to my advisor about that, she said they were going to cancel it until um, in the fall of next year. So I'm going to graduate in May of 2022, so I wasn't able to take that class. So I had to find different classes that were going to fit that criteria, or a class that I wanted to pursue before that I couldn't before. I feel like that with COVID definitely impacted what classes I was going to take. In terms of my preparedness, I feel like I was um, kind of prepared in this COVID process. My scholarship provided discretionary funds for the scholarship recipients, so I had a lot of help there. My job at Aurora was offering aid to their employees, so I was able to apply and get some aid from there. So I didn't have that much of a financial burden, but they can only give you so much money. So I still had to work a few more hours and provide for my family and give them what they needed. And I feel like what I feel like I could be more prepared for in terms of COVID was communication with my professors. I know for one of my Spanish classes, I didn't hear from my professor for almost 2 weeks. So I was kind of like in the question of where is the direction going for the class? Why am I not hearing from him? And stuff like that. That brought a lot of uncertainty to see if I'm going to follow the syllabus on the schedule, to see if I supposed to do this homework or am I not supposed to do this homework. So there's kind of a lot of uncertainty with some of my professors. So I feel like more communication with them would have been really helpful throughout this whole process of like navigating COVID and all that jazz.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I have one last set of questions for all three of you, and this has to do more so with your peers, right? Your fellow Latinx classmates and people you know, because I imagine some of you have siblings or cousins that are also pursuing college right now. So could you tell me, what are you seeing from other Latinx college students in your circles? Statistically, you know, about 20 to 30% of Latino college students had to change their plans. You know, when we look at the national landscape, either stop going or not starting because of financial, you know, shortfalls. What are the things that you see that are supporting this, you know, in terms of the finances? What is needed to help, and how would you go about getting Latino college students back on track? You know, what would be your vision to get your peers, yourselves, the needed support, so you don't have to derail, you know, and stop going to college? You know, what would be your advice, I guess, knowing what we know and what you have experienced personally, right? So give me a sense of what you're hearing from your peers, from your classmates. You know, is it the same sentiment? Do you share the, you know, a lot of common denominators in all this? What can we do to mitigate and help about getting you know, our community of students back on track? Let's start with you, Nancy. I've always left you for the end, but you get to go first.
I think a major factor even before COVID was scholarship and financial support. Um, Especially if you're a low income student going into college, I feel like scholarships do help be like a boost and being able to support your studies and not have to so much financial burden, whether you have to work either 1 or 2 jobs or be full-time. I feel like scholarship could really provide that boost. Whether it's through external scholarships or scholarships at universities, I feel like that would be very helpful for incoming students or current students.
Javier?
I think, I gotta go back to like our actual roots to this, but from my family at least, I think there's more or less of a stigma to attend higher education. I mean, it's more or less a surprise when my parents or anyone tells people that I'm in college, because it's just assumed that I'm a Latino. Right after high school, we usually go into construction work, landscaping, just blue collar work, and obviously those aren't careers that you should be ashamed of. But however, I mean, there's only 11% of Latinos in the United States that have attained their bachelor's degree. Of that 11%, there's only 4% that actually have a master's. And I mean, those statistics that were mentioned at the HPGM scholarship really stuck with me at that point, because it's just, I feel like there's kind of a stigma for Latinos to attend college. It's just really looked down upon for some people as to like, why are you going to get into debt in that case? You're going to spend all this money just to like get a degree and more or less not even get a job. But I mean, that'll happen if you pick fields that aren't really in high demand. But I can tell you that engineering's in high demand, medical field's high demand. Like if you're just informed about it, you'll get a job. But we need blue collar workers. Any job, there's no job that you should be ashamed of. But I think the idea of college education being unattainable should be erased at least.
And what have you heard from your amigos, your college peers? You know, have you stayed in touch with them? Are you hearing, kind of like the things they're going through? Is it similar to what you face? Is it different? You know, how can we motivate them to get back to college if they have stopped, or if they're in? What are some of the things that you're hearing from them?
They just I think there's just lack of education in that area. There just needs to be more resources, especially at a younger age, high school, even grade school. I mean, I'm the youngest of 5 kids. We didn't all go to college, but that was their decision. But it has always been a driving point for me, especially like my parents came to the United States to give me a better life, and it'd just be kind of a slap in the face for them to go through all of this that they've went through, and then for me to just do the same manual labor that they don't want me to do. Like my father's in his late 60s and he's still doing construction. Like that's something that he's never wanted me to get into. And in that case, I think for my peers, I mean, they just see it as easy money, and it's honestly, it's good money. However, you're just putting that strain on your body, and you have all these opportunities that so many people in like third world countries would kill for, and then you're just letting them go to waste at that point.
Thank you.
I just think there needs to be more education on like different career paths that you could take. I mean, trade school is 2 years, and honestly, it's a great education, and you learn a lot of things that are useful and all that.
Appreciate that. Jannett, to close us out, this will be, like I said, it was our last question, and give us your perspective on what you're hearing from your peers. You know, what can be done to help, our community of Latino students stay in school, given everything we've talked about and what they have experienced this last 15 months.
Yeah, so I actually do know 2 people personally that decided to drop out. Initially it was for the semester, but they didn't return for the following semester. And I think a big piece of that is just, I don't know their situation personally, if it was due to finances or just not being sure if that was a career path for them. But I think a big piece that I think would help keep Latinos on track is just to have mentors and support systems that really guide you and answer questions for you when you don't have someone necessarily at home to help you with those things. I know for me, I don't have someone in my family who like an older like an aunt or older cousin or something like that, who I can ask about like internships or what engineering career path is for me. I've had to rely on mentors and just my own advisor for those things. And I think sometimes that puts you in a disadvantage with your peers. Like when I'm in lab and I have peers talking about just being hooked up with internships at like a family friend's firm or something. So those are things that I think really help Latinos stay on track, having a good support system or mentor.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank all of you, each one of you panelists. I mean, you've given us a lot. Thanks for sharing your stories. Thanks for sharing with honesty and you know, and being very brave throughout this whole entire process. So we're going to close it here. And again, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in person. You inspire all of us. I think the audience can agree with me that our future is bright in individuals like yourselves. So keep doing what you do and look to this community to also support you in your journey as you move forward. Next, we will be hearing from Ana Valdez, Executive President of the Latino Donor Collaborative. Please stay tuned. And again, thank you for tuning in to this student panel portion of today's program. Again, my name is Alberto Maldonado, Director of the Roberto Hernandez Center. I look forward to seeing many of you in the coming weeks and coming months. So,
Alberto, thank you so much for being the moderator. We're going to take a short break before we return for the closing session with Ana Valdez. We ask you to please stay tuned, and thanks again for tuning in to the college panel and to all of our panelists for participating today. We'll be back in a second. Thank you.